In this section, we're going to talk about hacking techniques in terms of how to break and bypass different levels of encryption. In this video, we're going to be talking about using unique keys and certificates in terms of why you would want to do that and what will happen if you don't. So the main quote here is from Adi Shamir. His name Adi is the A in RSA. And one of the comments that he made many years ago is that cryptography is typically bypassed, not penetrated. So what happens is, instead of breaking an algorithm, or instead of finding a way to break RSA, which is extraordinarily difficult, people generally find ways to go around it or circumvent the way that encryption is used, or circumvent the way that passwords are used. And one modern example of this is that recently, in early 2019, police were given a court order that they can't force people to unlock their phones by just pointing the phone at someone's face. So what happens is, a lot of mobile phones have a lot of very advanced encryption on them that requires something called a trusted execution environment chip. And all you have to do in order to unlock a lot of phones is just point it at the owner, or trick the owner to look at you while you're holding their phone. So in this case, nobody's going out and breaking the Apple iPhone encryption. What they're doing is they're tricking the owner to just look at the phones. So that was a way of bypassing the encryption rather than breaking it, which is very difficult. When we go to think about the keys that we've used, or a lot of the private keys that we've generated, or the key pairs that we've made, each time those keys are reused, it's very convenient, it's very easy to do, it just makes our lives a lot easier, but it increases the risk of loss. So what happens if something goes awry at each time that it's used? Or if I lose one of those keys that I've used all over at the place, the same convenience that I got by using one key over and over becomes very convenient for whoever finds that key, in that now they can decrypt everything that I've seen. So an example of this in terms of physical keys is, you think of a way that a lot of janitors have keys, or what goes around their belts. In my opinion, there's just way too many keys. So what happens is, if you generate a new key for everything, that's a bit of an overkill. So what I do is, I generally have keys for a period of time or for a set of things, and I will have a few of them, and I'll just kind of reuse them every once in a while. So it's not like I'm going through and generating the janitor level key ring, which just has keys and keys and keys all over the place. I might have a few of them, but not a ton. One example of not reusing something, or if you never reuse it, is something called a one-time pad. This is effectively the most secure level of encryption that you can do, because what happens is, you have something like a symmetric key that is only ever used once and then is destroyed. And if that key is totally random, and of course that key needs to be longer than the message, because otherwise it ends up being reused, nobody will be able to crack that cipher except for brute force, because they'll have no idea what that key is, and there will be nothing else that they can go after. And one example of this that occurs in the wild is a website that's called Have I Been Pwned. What this website does is, it tracks different breaches of places where passwords have been disclosed, and because a lot of people use their same password across a multitude of websites, this just tracks those passwords. So it says, well, you've been compromised at LinkedIn, maybe you should change your password to other websites. Because what happens is, when attackers find passwords for one website, they'll go try those accounts at other websites, and generally speaking, that works. So we don't need a demo for this. There's no real demo that I can give to talk about key reuse. Just think about the other sections where we generated or seeded keys, or we used a cryptographic symmetric key, or we used a key pair generator or a key generator, and just do that a couple times. Do it every once in a while. Don't reuse one single key for everything. And one example of ways is, you pre-generate a set of keys, you share the lists so that there's no data that goes back and forth, or you have a couple different systems. If they need to communicate, maybe they share the same key generation code and the same level of randomness and initialization vectors that other people don't know, so that they don't have to share these keys all around, and you can just generate them from multiple systems that you know are secure, so that you don't have communications going back and forth that involves the keys. One example, if you wanted to go into be doing any kind of nefarious activities, if you're looking at how one way that people can bypass crypto techniques, and you want to figure out what happens if keys are reused, figure out how to create some service, maybe it's sports scores or celebrity gossip or something, and just require a registration that needs a password and use the same convention as different things. Like you have to be 8 letters, an uppercase, a couple numbers, a symbol, and then take the things that people sign up with and just try them at other locations. That's a very low-tech attack. You'll notice we didn't break any cryptography, but regrettably, that technique actually works quite well.